You're ruining everything. Not really, it's not that serious, but today I did want to talk about something that can become a little bit serious. It really depends on who you are, what your goals are, what kind of life you live. But I think a lot of us have either experienced this, are currently experiencing this, or will experience this. And my goal with this video is to help you avoid some of the headache that can come in this hobby if you're not too careful. So, what is this big mistake that you could be doing to ruin your experience? You ready? Only buying cheap fragrances. I know some of you are already mad. Just hear me out. We're talking about instant gratification. It's a term you hear all the time, and it's very easy to take it for granted. First thing I want to do is tell you a little story. At one point in time, not that long ago, I opened up my bank account and I had a balance of $0 in my checking account. No savings. I had nothing. My point is that I can empathize with those of you who might be living in a tough situation, who might not have the financial freedom that you would prefer. And I see that said a lot. I see a lot of people say, well, I don't have a ton of money. I don't have a lot of discretionary income to spend on expensive fragrances, so I can only get these cheaper ones. That is letting instant gratification win. Because any one of us, if you earn money from any kind of work that you do, then you have the ability to save, which requires going against instant gratification. Not easy to do, but we'll talk a little bit about how to approach that. Now, why does it matter? Why does waiting matter? Because I believe that, especially in this hobby, in this world of fragrance that is flooded with redundancy, quality and interest are worth waiting for. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Those of you who have found a way to find what you truly love, what truly moves you, not just what's super popular, not just what's easy to get. And what's easy to get does not mean it's bad. Again, we'll talk more about that. But I think those of you who've done these things, you can relate to what I'm talking about. When you find true quality in perfumery, because it does exist. Now, all of this comes down to the most imperative element of this hobby. If you're asking me, especially at this point in my journey, this is the greatest piece of advice I could give to you. Slow down. It's going to feel countercultural and might even feel counterintuitive. We only have so much time on this earth, but trust me, the cost is too great, literally and figuratively, to move through this thing very, very quickly. And this is not easy to do, because if you're watching YouTube videos on fragrance every day, or maybe even every other day, doesn't really matter. If it's at any regular pace, you are being bombarded with new fragrances to try and buy all the time. Well, if I'm being honest, unless you're watching certain channels, you're maybe not seeing a ton of new stuff all the time. There's a lot of recycling going on here, but topic for another video. If you watch a video that features some fragrances that interest you, first of all, it's always good to figure out, why am I interested in this? And what purpose can it serve in the context of what I already have? We don't often think about that. Yes, I can see it in and of itself, but how does it look next to everything else I already have? Does it make sense? Is there something that's already filling that role? We're talking about bottles here specifically. And when it comes to blind buying bottles, because we all know that can be the biggest affliction in this hobby. So yeah, take note of fragrances that truly interest you, and hopefully the creator, whoever made the video, has put some links down in the description where you can get a decant. This is not always possible, so I'm not trying to fault creators who are only linking to bottles, because sometimes there are no samples available depending on the fragrance, especially if it is a slightly cheaper fragrance. Decants are not the only way either. It goes without saying that decants can also get out of hand. I myself have several drawers full of so many decants that I will never go through. But if you had to choose the worst of the two, that is having 50 decants you don't like, or having 50 bottles you don't like, which are you choosing? Am I saying to never buy a full bottle of a fragrance before getting a decant ever again? Of course not. As I said, that's not always possible with every fragrance. And what you consider low risk and high value is completely up to you and your wallet. Speaking of, with the Z Creators 2.0 fragrances, as you guys might already know, we weren't able to offer samples at the start of the launch, but there's actually samples available now. If you go to the Zaharoff website, I'm going to link it down below. You can now get a sample of each one. And if you use the code ZZ, I'm pretty sure that's the code, you get free shipping. So if those of you have been waiting to get those fragrances because you had to do a blind buy, I totally understand. Hopefully we've opened up the door to a few more of you to get your nose on it and see if it's worth the money to you to get a full bottle before it's sold out. Also, am I saying to never buy an inexpensive fragrance ever again? No, I'm not saying that, if that's not clear. I'm just trying to encourage you to be a little bit more thoughtful about what you acquire. It's so easy to get throwaway fragrances. These are fragrances that are more exciting to buy and receive. Like you get the package. That is more exciting than actually opening it up and spraying it on and wearing it maybe once. The excitement immediately goes down. It's like driving a new car off the lot. The value, it tanks immediately. You know what I'm talking about. Especially if it was a very cheap fragrance that was super easy to get. You didn't have to think twice. The money wasn't an issue. Even then, you know what I'm talking about. You get that fragrance and you're like, okay, great. Once you see it up on your shelf next to all the others, the overwhelm just grows even more. And sure, maybe you'll wear it a few times for that first week you get it, but then it starts to collect the dust just like all the others. We all know that the fun is in the thrill of this. But by nature, thrill is temporary. And that's actually fine. It's normal. I mean, roller coasters are awesome. You get a thrill and then you get off and that's it. It's done. But if chasing thrills leaves you with a residue of excess and things that are unnecessary to your life, I don't think it's worth it. So just be thoughtful, guys. There's no hurry. Slow down. Those of you who are only getting those cheaper fragrances because that's the low-hanging fruit, that's what you can afford, I'm just encouraging you to slow down. I think you're going to serve yourself better by not using that as an excuse. You can wait, save some money if you find something you like. Maybe it's a little bit out of the range. You might have to save up for the decant because sometimes decants can be a little bit expensive. I think you're going to get more value out of this hobby if you can find a way to pump the brakes and hone in on stuff that really matters to you. It doesn't have to be the most artistic thing, but again, once you get true quality, it's hard to go back because it does exist. You don't always get what you pay for in perfumery, but a lot of the time you do. So that's really all I had to say. I want to know what you guys think. Let's start a discussion down in the comments. If you're upset, breathe, drink some water, maybe take a walk, and then come back and see if you're still upset and wanted to leave that comment. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.